The CFMOTO 450MT looks impressive on paper. The specs are strong. The price is aggressive. But specs don't tell you what it's actually like to live with a bike. So I asked other owners what surprised them. Most of them didn't mention horsepower or electronics. They said things like, it's a complete package. It's more nimble than expected. It just works. After owning it, riding it, and modifying it, here are the 10 things that really surprised me. And the first one I noticed within the first minutes. The sound. Honestly, I didn't expect much from a stock 450 twin. But this engine has real character. The stock slip-on might actually be one of the best sounding stock exhausts in this class. It doesn't sound like a small budget bike. It sounds grown up. The only reason I changed mine was the weight, and because I crashed it. But I recently found a slip-on that saves weight and keeps the same deep tone. Maybe even improves it. I will install that soon. More on that on a future video. The service intervals were longer than I expected. At least here in the Nordic countries. Oil and filter are every 10,000 kilometers. Spark plugs at 20k. And valve inspection isn't until 30,000 kilometers. It may be different in other markets, but the point is, this doesn't look like a stressed engine. That tells me this engine isn't pushed to its limits. And when you combine that with fuel consumption and insurance, the ownership of this bike starts to look very interesting. Owning costs were lower than I expected. At least here in Sweden, insurance is lower than on bigger adventure bikes. Fuel consumption is reasonable. It's not trying to be a high-performance machine, so it doesn't drink like one. And with those service intervals we just talked about, this becomes a bike you actually ride a lot without constantly thinking about money every time you turn the key. Another thing that surprised me is how comfortable it feels at cruising speed. At 100 km per hour, the engine feels relaxed, not stressed. And with a 7.5 liters tank, the range is solid for this category. It can handle longer road sections without feeling like a small dual sport. That balance between comfort and capability was not something I expected from a 450. This surprised me. The 450MT feels more off-road focused than many traditional adventure bikes. Not because it's extremely light, but because how manageable it feels in the dirt. The 21 18-inch wheel setup makes sense. It's easy to stand on, and it doesn't feel intimidating off-road. A lot of you have mentioned how nimble it feels for its size. And I understand what you mean. I'm not saying it's a pure dual sport, and I'm not saying it's a race enduro. But compared to bigger adventure bikes, it feels closer to that side of the spectrum. Now, here's another side of that. The 450MT is not a race bike. Out of the box, it's not a hard enduro machine, and it's not meant to be. The suspension is set up for versatility. The engine is tuned for usability. And what surprised me is how solid the platform feels. With the right upgrades, suspension, protection, setup, it can move surprisingly far in that direction. Not because it was designed as a race bike, but because the foundation is good. Another thing that surprised me is how well it has held up so far. No major issues, no strange behavior, no drama. And that matters more than people think. Because with newer brands and models, there's always that question in the back of your mind, will this hold up? So far, for me, it has. And combined with those long service intervals, it starts to feel like a well-developed platform. Of course, long-term durability is something only time can prove. And actually, one thing surprised me more than all of this. I will get back to that in a minute. The aftermarket support surprised me. For a pretty new bike, the amount of parts available is impressive. You have affordable upgrades, protection, luggage, small details. But you also have proper high-end options, like suspension and wheels, and performance parts. That tells you something. It tells you the bike has a global interest, and that manufacturers believe in the platform. That is not something you always get this early in the model's life. If there are one upgrade that changes this bike the most, it's the suspension. Not exhaust, not tuning, suspension. The stock setup works well for general riding. It's comfortable, it's versatile, but if you start pushing harder off-road, that's where you feel the limits. And once you improve the suspension, the whole bike feels more controlled, more predictable, more planted. Not because the stock suspension is bad, but because there's more potential in the chassis than you first realize. And this is probably the biggest surprise of all. When you look at the full picture, service intervals, running cost, how well it has held up, off-road capability, and upgrade potential, it starts to look like one of the best value adventure platforms right now. Not the fastest, not the lightest, not the most extreme, but very well balanced for the money. And many of you said the same thing, that it's a complete package. So those were 10 things that really surprised me about the 450MT. Not from the spec sheet, not from a short test ride, but from actually living with it. It's not perfect, but it is a very interesting platform. And honestly, that balance is what keeps me riding it. If you own one, what surprised you the most? I'm curious to see if it matches my list. And one more thing. The fact that so many owners described it the same way, balanced, capable, complete. That might actually be the biggest surprise of all. And if you are considering one, there's more coming. Thanks for watching, ride safe, and see you in the next one.